I still remember the exact way my father said it, not angry, not cruel, certain. My brother Daniel and I had both been accepted into college. We sat at the kitchen table while our parents reviewed tuition costs, financial aid letters, and scholarship offers. My father folded his hands. We can afford to fully support one of you. I thought the conversation would be about numbers. Instead, it became about value. Dad looked at Daniel first. You have real potential. Then he looked at me. You'll figure things out. You always do. My mother avoided my eyes when I asked what that meant. My father finally said the sentence that stayed with me for years. He has potential. You don't. The room became very quiet. Nobody yelled. Nobody cried. That almost made it worse. The decision had already been made. They paid for Daniel's tuition. I took loans, worked evenings, delivered food on weekends, and spent more nights than I can count studying after midnight because that was the only free time I had left. For a long time, I wasn't even angry. I was embarrassed. A part of me wondered whether they were right. Maybe potential was something visible to everyone except the person who lacked it. The first year was brutal. Daniel joined clubs, attended networking events, and built friendships. I built work schedules. When classmates talked about internships, I calculated whether I could afford groceries. When professors offered unpaid opportunities, I declined. I needed money more than experience. Every family phone call felt the same. Questions about Daniel lasted 20 minutes. Questions about me lasted 2. Still working? Yeah, well, keep at it. That was usually the end of it. Over time, something changed, not dramatically quickly, because I couldn't rely on anyone. I started solving problems differently. I learned how to talk to people, how to negotiate, how to organize projects, how to earn trust quickly. Small skills developed because they had to. Nobody noticed, not even me. By graduation year, Daniel and I were still close. The strange thing was that he never acted superior. The favoritism hadn't come from him. He had benefited from it, but he hadn't created it. One night, a few months before graduation, he called me. You know, Dad still thinks you're wasting your time with that leadership program. I laughed. I know, you should tell them what you've been doing. What for? There was a pause. Maybe because they should know. I looked out the apartment window. They made their decision years ago. Daniel didn't argue. Neither of us mentioned it again. Graduation weekend arrived. Our parents flew in. They seemed excited, proud, even mostly of Daniel. If I was being honest, Dad spent most of breakfast talking about Daniel's future plans. Job prospects, career paths, graduate school possibilities. I listened quietly. It felt familiar, comfortably familiar for them. The ceremony began under clear skies. Thousands of families filled the stadium. Names were called, degrees awarded. Everything unfolded exactly as expected. Then the university president stepped to the podium. There is one additional recognition before we conclude. Most people barely reacted. Special awards happened every year. I certainly wasn't expecting anything, the president continued. This year's Distinguished Community Leadership Award is presented to a graduate whose work has transformed student support programs across multiple departments. I stopped paying attention, then I heard my name. For a moment, I genuinely thought I had misheard it. The giant screens lit up. My photograph appeared. A short video followed, projects I had helped build, mentorship programs, student employment initiatives, faculty testimonials, 4 years of work I had done quietly between classes and jobs. The president invited me to the stage. The audience stood, not everyone, of course, but enough that the movement spread visibly through the stadium. Applause rolled across the crowd. I walked forward in a kind of stunned silence. Then something happened that I didn't learn about until later. My mother grabbed my father's arm, hard enough that he looked at her. She never took her eyes off the stage. Richard, she whispered, what did we do? The award itself mattered less than what followed. Faculty members approached my parents afterward. Administrators introduced themselves. One dean spent several minutes explaining how my programs would continue after graduation because of their impact. Another mentioned that several organizations had already expressed interest in hiring me. My parents listened, mostly silently. For the first time in my life, they were hearing strangers describe me in ways they never had: capable, respected, trusted, a leader, not potential, reality. Later that evening, the 5 of us sat together for dinner. Nobody mentioned the award immediately. The silence wasn't hostile, just heavy. Finally, my father spoke. I was wrong. The words seemed difficult for him. I thought I understood who you were. I didn't answer, he continued. I thought I was making a practical decision. My mother looked down, tears gathered in her eyes. I convinced myself it wasn't favoritism, she said quietly. I told myself we were helping the child who needed it most. Daniel stared at the table. Nobody rushed to comfort anyone. Some things deserved honesty before forgiveness. My father looked at me. Did you ever hate us? I thought about the question. Years earlier, the answer might have been yes. Now it was more complicated. No, I paused, but I stopped expecting anything from you. The words landed harder than anger would have, because they were true. That night, after everyone left, I walked alone across campus. The stadium lights were already off. The crowds were gone. Only silence remained. I thought about debt, long shifts, exhaustion, missed opportunities. All the years spent proving something I never should have had to prove. The award hadn't erased any of it. Successes didn't rewrite the past. But it did something else. It removed the last trace of doubt, not about my parents, about myself. Their judgment had shaped my life. It no longer defined it. And as I stood there looking across the empty campus, I realized something unexpected. The victory wasn't standing on that stage. It wasn't the applause. It wasn't watching my parents confront their mistake. The victory was that their belief in me was finally optional. For the first time in my life, I didn't need it anymore.